David, shepherd to king, a life of obedience and success. Key verse, the Lord has sought out a man after his own heart. 1 Samuel 13:14. David's journey from an unknown shepherd boy to the most renowned king of Israel is one of the most remarkable success stories in the Bible. His life is a model of what it means to walk in obedience to God. David wasn't perfect, but he consistently returned to God with a sincere heart. His faith, humility, courage, and commitment to God transformed a teenager guarding sheep into a ruler who united a fractured nation. His story proves that true success begins with a heart fully surrendered to God. Chapter 1. Just a kid with a sling and a song. David wasn't the obvious choice for greatness. He wasn't the tallest, the strongest, or the oldest. He was the youngest of 8 sons, the kid they left behind to watch the sheep while the rest of the brothers did more important things. But God doesn't see what we see. Where others saw a shepherd boy, God saw a king in the making. When the prophet Samuel came to Jesse's house to anoint Israel's next king, Jesse didn't even bother to call David in from the fields. It took Samuel asking, "Are these all the sons you have?" for Jesse to mention him. "There is still the youngest," Jesse said, "but he is tending the sheep." 1 Samuel 16:11. Imagine that. David is anointed king while still smelling like sheep. But from that moment, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. God didn't choose David because of his status, looks, or talent. He chose him because of his heart. Chapter 2. Facing giants before the crown. Before David ever wore a crown, he fought a giant. The story of David and Goliath isn't just about courage, it's about trust. While the Israelite army was paralyzed by fear, David was more concerned with defending God's honor than protecting his own life. Goliath mocked God and his people for 40 days. No one moved, no one spoke up. But David couldn't stay silent. He wasn't even supposed to be there to fight. He was just bringing lunch to his brothers. But when he heard Goliath's insults, he said, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." 1 Samuel 17:32. He rejected Saul's armor and took what he knew, a sling, 5 stones, and unshakable faith. His words before facing the giant were bold. "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty." 1 Samuel 17:45. And just like that, the stone flew, Goliath fell, and David's life was never the same. That battle didn't just make him famous, it revealed who he really was, a man who believed God was bigger than any giant. Chapter 3. Serving the king who wanted him dead. After defeating Goliath, David was a hero. People sang about him in the streets. But with fame came jealousy. King Saul was threatened. He welcomed David into his palace, but his heart turned sour. David could have turned against Saul. He could have used his popularity to stir up a rebellion. Instead, he played his harp to calm Saul's troubled spirit. He fought Saul's battles. He married Saul's daughter. He became best friends with Saul's son, Jonathan. When Saul's jealousy boiled over and he tried to kill David, David ran. But even in hiding, David never tried to harm Saul. Twice he had the chance to kill him, and both times he spared Saul's life. "I will not lift my hand against my master," David said, "because he is the Lord's anointed." 1 Samuel 24:10. David honored God by honoring the one God had put in leadership, even when that leader was deeply flawed. That takes incredible humility and trust in God's plan. Chapter 4. Wilderness, years, and broken dreams. David's years on the run weren't glamorous. He hid in caves, he moved constantly. He pretended to be insane to survive. He lost friends. He feared for his life. But those years weren't wasted. They were shaping him. It's often in the wilderness that God does his best work. Away from the crowds, the thrones, the titles, David learned to lean on God alone. Many of his psalms come from these years, raw, emotional, honest. He cried out, "How long, Lord? Will you forget me forever?" Psalm 13:1. And yet he still said, "But I trust in your unfailing love." Psalm 13, verse 5. He didn't fake strength. He brought his weakness to God. That's what made him strong. Chapter 5. Crowned but still dependent. After years of waiting, Saul died. David didn't rush to grab the throne. He asked God what to do, and God told him to go to Hebron. There he was anointed king of Judah. It would take another 7 years before he was made king over all Israel. When he finally united the nation, he didn't make it about himself. He brought the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. He danced in front of it with all his might, worshiping without shame. He wanted God at the center of the kingdom. David ruled with justice. He expanded Israel's territory. He cared for the poor, showed mercy to his enemies, and led his people with wisdom. But he never stopped relying on God. In you, Lord my God, I put my trust. Psalm 25:1. Success didn't go to his head because he knew where it came from. Chapter 6, When a King Falls. David's story takes a dark turn with Bathsheba. He saw her bathing, desired her, and took her. She became pregnant, and to cover it up, David arranged for her husband, Uriah, to be killed in battle. The man after God's own heart had committed adultery and murder. God sent Nathan the prophet to confront him. Nathan told a story that opened David's eyes. When David realized the gravity of his sin, he didn't make excuses. He didn't blame anyone else. I have sinned against the Lord, 2 Samuel 12:13. His confession was deep and real. In Psalm 51, he poured out his heart. Create in me a pure heart, O God. Restore to me the joy of your salvation. Psalm 51, verses 10 to 12. God forgave him, but the consequences were painful. The child died. His family suffered division and betrayal. Yet David clung to God, not because he was perfect, but because he was honest. He never tried to pretend he didn't need grace. Chapter 7, A Legacy Bigger Than a Throne. In his final years, David wasn't just concerned with his own legacy. He wanted to set up his son Solomon to succeed. He drew up plans for the temple, gathered materials, and charged Solomon to build a house for God. David's last words weren't about his achievements, but about God's faithfulness. In 1 Chronicles 29, he prays, "Yours, Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the majesty and the splendor." 1 Chronicles 29:11. He could have taken the credit, but he gave it to God. That's the heart of a true king. And God honored that heart. He made a covenant with David that his throne would be established forever. That promise was fulfilled in Jesus, the Son of David, who reigns forever. Chapter 8, Why David's Story Still Matters. So what does this all mean for us today? David wasn't superhuman. He had highs and lows. He was brave, but also broken. He was a leader, but also a learner. And that's why we can relate to him. His story reminds us that God can use anyone, not because of their resume, but because of their heart. That obedience isn't about perfection, but direction. That true success is not found in status or money or applause, but in walking with God. David teaches us to trust God's timing even when it feels slow. Serve others even when we're the ones being mistreated. Be honest about our failures and quick to repent. Make worship a lifestyle, not just a Sunday thing. Lead with humility and finish well. He wasn't defined by his worst moment, but by his consistent return to God. Final thoughts. A heart like his. David was called a man after God's own heart. That title wasn't earned by his achievements, but by his attitude. He wanted what God wanted. He listened. He worshiped. He obeyed. And when he fell, he came back. That's the kind of heart God is still looking for. He's not impressed by performance. He's drawn to authenticity. The same God who called David from the sheepfold is still calling people today to follow, to lead, to serve, to repent, and to love him with everything they have. You don't need to be perfect to be used by God. You just need a heart that says, "Here I am. Use me." Like David, may our lives reflect God's heart, not with perfection, but with faithfulness.